What's good, y'all? Hope you're doing alright this fine morning. I'm predicting that this video will probably be a long one, because I feel like at this point I start to kind of remember things a lot more clear, and try not to narrow it down, or try not to just spend like an hour recalling high school memories, because I'm more or less enjoying some things currently now, and I would like to think I did not peak at high school, but I'd be lying if I said that there was a lack of good times and memories back in high school. Because that's definitely when things kind of took a positive turn for me, I feel like. Start off with freshman year. Funny thing is, actually, I have family that actually lives pretty close by, so I actually had two cousins while I was in high school, my very first year. One was actually the same age as me, and I totally forgot to mention that we ended up actually going to the same middle school, and very few people actually know that I had a cousin in middle school, and I think the same applies vice versa. If I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty sure most people don't even know that I have a cousin that's the same age as me. That we ended up going to the same school for like 6 years or so. We ended up actually going to colleges around the same area, so that was pretty funny too. But honestly, I didn't feel like I really saw them around enough in school, and we didn't really hang out together very often, besides like with family. So, I don't know. I just thought that was a pretty funny coincidence. But I definitely think that my first year was definitely when I started to kind of do things more than just like going to school and going to the extracurriculars that my parents basically signed me up for a while. Right now, where I stand, I only was going to my old church group, Tuni. And that was probably the only main extracurricular I had around that time. So I decided, why not do a sport? Wasn't really very good at any of the sports, so I figured I might as well just, I don't know, try cross country, since I thought I was okay at running. Learned pretty quick that I was definitely on the slower end, but I mean, if I'm going to be honest, I definitely found a pretty welcoming group, I guess, of people. And though I definitely wasn't really as close with the older members as with people who were around the same age as me, so basically, if we were in the same graduating class, I was probably a lot closer with them compared with most of the other members. But it was pretty hard getting to know each other, getting to know the people, because one, I was still pretty quiet around freshman year, and two, I didn't really get close with other people, not even the people in that I kind of knew in middle school. Our group was definitely growing bit by bit, but also I wasn't really going out of my way to hang out with them outside school, I feel like, as I could have. But they were always offering. It was just, I definitely felt like I could have chosen to hang out with them, but also there was a part of me that kind of still felt very reluctant to trust other people. I think that was a pretty prevalent problem that I kind of had in high school, because I definitely was able to kind of talk with people and kind of get along with them and maybe even be friends with people, but I wasn't very trusting, I feel like, especially like my early years in high school, mainly because I was still kind of getting over my whole loneliness problem from middle school, I feel like. I think, though, cross country definitely did help me kind of find a group where I kind of belonged in, because I was always there, and people were always like, I don't know, kind of, I guess, acknowledging my existence, so that was nice, and that was definitely one of the main reasons why I kept doing it for 4 years, and then eventually I joined track sophomore year. I didn't do it freshman year for some reason, but, well, I at least knew that I had a few groups that I belonged into, which was kind of nice considering how much of an issue it was for me before, I guess. I think the worst thing that really happened freshman year was probably the fact that definitely was not getting straight A's for all 4 years. Kind of sucked, realizing that, but also had to also realize that I really wasn't really putting in enough effort in particularly English class. And I'm going to be honest, I think most of the teachers that I knew at least kind of put in the effort, and a lot of people said good things about. I definitely acknowledge that. And I think it was definitely on my end that I could have put in a bit more effort to maybe improve my grade. But honestly, I did learn before that grades aren't really the end of the world, honestly. As long as it was doing fine, and I still ended up doing fine for most of my other classes, surprisingly. I was honestly surprised, especially with my cooking class, because I've run like barely cooked like egg rolls and still somehow managed to pass. Yikes, yeah. Took me a while to pick up cooking again after that incident, but it's honestly fine. I at least knew that I was kind of starting to belong somewhere, and that was honestly all I really needed. Sophomore year, though, definitely coursework was starting to pick up a lot. And I definitely realized something pretty important, actually, freshman year, actually. There were two other things I forgot to mention. One, for some reason, actually, most people, when they saw me, I think it was mainly because I did end up having a growth spurt between 8th grade and freshman year. So it was probably about like I don't know, 5'7", 5'8", or at least 170 centimeters, something like that. So it was somewhat tall, I guess. But for some reason, most people thought I looked a bit more mature than what I first, than I guess what my actual grade was. For some reason, most people thought while I was a freshman that I was like a sophomore or a junior. So I jokingly said that by the time I was a senior, I might as well have just gotten my college degree or something. I don't know if it was like particularly my behavior, because I kind of just feel like I do spend a lot of time on my mind. And now that I think about it, I do recognize most of the problems that I had before, but just never really did anything about, because there were other concerns I had to deal with, and I figured those were a bit more important than what was kind of going on my mind. I don't know if it was also because of my appearance, because I definitely did not look like a young freshman for some weird reason. But anyways, I guess like that whole kind of judgment, I guess, from other people kind of made me think appearances don't really give you the full picture of who a person is, or even just like an answer to a simple question like what grade are you? But definitely still make that mistake every now and then. I don't know. Second thing was during the summer between my freshman and sophomore year, I actually ended up getting a job that I ended up working every summer since then. I worked as a lifeguard and a swim instructor. I mainly got the job because I heard my cousins who were already doing it, and one who is also applying as well. And I just decided, you know what, I don't really have much to do over the summer, why not do this? Still pretty shy of doing that, but surprisingly, even during the interview where I was extremely nervous, I ended up getting the job at like 15 and a half years old. And I just only finished like 1 year of high school. It was intimidating, to say the least, to kind of be responsible for. Well, for me, I mainly taught like kids around the age of like 3 to 12 years old. It was pretty scary at first, having that responsibility, and also knowing that you kind of have the knowledge to help a person if they are in danger, at least around the pool. But I feel like that definitely helped me kind of mature in a way that I was able to kind of develop some confidence for myself and kind of be a bit more outspoken, and to kind of just be a bit more assertive. Because I was in somewhat of a leadership role, even though I wasn't like the boss of like the whole facility or whatever. I had command of basically my class of whatever I was teaching, or whoever I was making sure wasn't doing anything dangerous to themselves. And so I definitely credit that, because I have spent so much time there and seen so much kind of change that I didn't realize that I was also changing during that time too. So I'm definitely always going to be grateful for that. Anyways, sophomore year. Coursework was starting to get a bit more difficult. I was still able to handle it mostly on my own, and I was definitely getting a little bit more closer with other people and starting to trust people a bit more. I actually ended up developing some crush on someone a while back, actually, around that time. I think I remember someone jokingly asking that for some reason, and that got me thinking, do I like this person romantically? And I guess at some point I did come to the conclusion that I did, but I was still really shy to really act on my feelings. I mean, 90%, or most people would probably be unsure of how to really kind of express their feelings. I think the only closest action I did to really kind of reveal those feelings to that person was asking them out to go to prom with me. Didn't really do like a big proposal or anything, just wanted to see if she would be down to spend a night, I guess, with me and a few other friends. She did respectfully decline, from what I remember. And after that, I kind of thought about it a bit more, like, would I really want to pursue a relationship with this person, I guess? Because for some reason I was still very uncertain about that. And after coming to the conclusion that, like, I really wasn't sure if I was ready to go into a relationship, and also the fact that she might have also been already in a relationship, I just kind of let my feelings be a bit dormant, because there was just too many things that kind of prevented me from really trying to get into a relationship. And so they were dormant for probably the rest of my high school career. Didn't really see that person or her after probably sophomore year as often. But when I do remember some feelings kind of sprouting out, just not enough to really do much about it. I don't know, I don't really feel like I've interacted with... Man. I'm a lot more comfortable with guys than girls, I'm just gonna be honest right now. That's working there. Me, at least, kind of getting a bit more comfortable around girls. I don't know why. Pretty sure it's probably because I just have some preference to be in a romantic relationship with a girl. Big surprise there. So I was obviously a bit more comfortable with guys, and also I always hung out with guys a lot more than girls, so, you know, I don't know. Pretty weird stuff. But sophomore year was definitely kind of when I at least started realizing, I don't know, that I did have some feelings of, I don't know, romance, stuff like that. Was probably the main highlight of it, because everything else was basically freshman year, except I was a bit more active in sports. I was still working my summer job, was still doing classes, I was still doing church stuff. That was about it. That's probably my main concern. Then there was junior year. At this point, there were more people who were on the younger side because, well, there was just mostly freshmen and sophomore people that I was younger, or that was older than. And so I was definitely starting to kind of take up that seniority as, like, an older figure. I don't really feel like I consider myself a role model, but I'll get into that when I get to senior year, because that was definitely a time. I actually ended up in a group in my AP biology class with 3 other girls. Don't know how the hell that happened, but it happened. And I was at least somewhat familiar with them, because one of them was the same class as me, so we've probably had one or two classes together. One I wasn't very familiar with until probably second semester, where I ended up having another class with her, so we got a little bit closer there. And the last one was actually a childhood friend that I had back in elementary school. She was actually someone that I knew while I was still doing like advanced math or whatever in elementary school. So definitely had that established relationship kind of, I guess, rekindled back then, which was kind of interesting. We ended up going to the same university, and she recently graduated, so congrats to her. But getting to know them at least made me comfortable with thinking they're people too. They got their own concerns. And definitely felt like I was able to be a bit more personal for probably the first time in a while. Told them things that were kind of going on in my life. Definitely told them about my dormant crush. And it was just very interesting kind of hearing, I guess, what they kind of had to say. And I think that they were definitely people that kind of helped me at least realize that I could be close with other people, honestly. And it doesn't always have to be that they'll always have to reach out. I could always reach out to them too. Friendships and any relationship, whether it be romantic, platonic, or familial, goes both ways. So, might as well contribute instead of just always receiving, I guess. And though classes were definitely extremely difficult back then, because I just took probably some of the hardest classes. Took freaking Calculus BC. Jesus. I ended up also developing a more close relationship with some of my teachers, actually. Which was kind of nice, because I didn't really think I would be able to kind of connect with them on a personal level until then. Especially contribute this with my calculus teacher, because she was very strict, but also she didn't let that get in the way of letting everyone know that she does care for her students, not only as just people in their class, but also people. Like, didn't think it was possible, but definitely thank her for that, honestly. I think that was a year where it was definitely a lot closer with people, especially whether it be cross country or my friend group that I usually hung out with. Oh, and I also started working at, like, the cafeteria. Yeah, no. People who talked about working at retail, fast food, yeah, no. For some reason I can sympathize with you. It sucks. And I had to deal with students who were having all kinds of problems around the cafeteria, like trying to steal food, or trying to kind of fake their identity to get food. And it took a while for me to kind of assert myself as someone who at least is able to kind of spot if anything was wrong and if I could do anything about it. Because I did end up working there for the rest of my high school career, so it was like 2 years. That was honestly pretty a hectic lunchtime, let's just say. But at least I got, like, first choice of lunch or whatever, so that was nice. And I think those are the main highlights of junior year. Now, senior year. Oh boy. I know whoever came up with the nickname or coined up the nickname is watching this, but I am 100% sure if I hear Senior John, it's most likely from someone in cross country. It was... I'm not sure if it was supposed to be a joke or, like, I don't know, a nickname or anything, but it was very interesting. It also made me kind of feel old, because I was already getting ready to go to college, or because I already applied by that time, and also, like, I didn't realize how much time had already passed by the time I was already a senior. So that was crazy. But by that time, I will admit, I was definitely the most closest with people around my high school time, and I think after high school I was still pretty close with most of the people that I kind of interacted with. Even if we didn't really interact once, I still feel like I think of them in good terms, even if they don't think of me that way otherwise. Hmm. I will admit, there were definitely a time where I kind of felt like I was kind of third wheeling something because I was in a group of people where two people ended up kind of start dating, and I was at least somewhat close with both of them since I had seen both of them around in other classes and stuff. But I will admit, their affection for each other was pretty clear as day, and while I did my best to kind of tolerate it by not really saying much about how it bothered me, it did eventually get to a point where it did bother me. So if you know who you are, it's not your fault for kind of not realizing it, I guess, or making me feel this way. It's also on me for also not really saying anything, because I did kind of end up tolerating it, and also I had other people to talk to besides them. Yeah, no. Learned how third wheeling kind of sucks the hard way, let's just say that. But also, I did have particularly fun times with them as well. Ended up doing some like VSA dance because one of them wasn't able to really commit the time, and I was just like, you know what, I kind of had time, might as well just like spend the time doing stuff or whatever. Senior year, right? But yeah, oh, and also, I actually also started driving around that time, so it was nice being able to kind of be free and kind of roam around the city and just do whatever I kind of wanted. Because I kind of feel like at home I just was only able to do things at home and not really go out and beyond the house, I guess. Unless I had something important to do like work, or had to work on a project or something like that. I never had the privilege to really travel myself until that year. But on the other hand, I had to also drive to school at like 6 a.m. in the morning because I had like a 7 a.m. class, even though school started at 8, so that kind of sucked. But when I think about high school, I kind of feel like that was definitely when I had the most freedom, and also kind of realized that there was good in other people, and I just had to realize that I just had to reach out for other people and be not only open to the fact that there were opportunities for me to get closer with them, but also to at least give them a shot. Because they've always given me a shot. It's just I very rarely reciprocated it. And now, still pretty close with some of those people. Definitely did get distant with other people because, well, I only saw them around for, let's say, classes or cross country, but whenever I do think of them, I still think of the good memories I had, and still attribute them as mostly good people, because for the most part, I haven't heard that anything terrible has happened to them for the most part yet, which is nice. And even though definitely had some tough times with classes, or whatever was coming in the future, I definitely have high school to credit for at least helping me build trust in kind of other people. And with that, I will say that if you have met me very recently, I'd say that's more or less that impression probably more or less an accurate representation of how I am normally. But when I am with closer people, I do kind of confide in them a bit more. Mainly because, well, nothing's personal stuff. I feel like it takes a certain level of intimacy to really kind of talk about my personal thoughts. Don't really know what else to really say, because I think university was definitely, even though I've only been in university for like 2 years, I'd definitely say I enjoyed those times a lot, honestly. And so I will end off the video here. See you in probably the final part of whatever my past is. Bye.